As someone who grew up a kid being just straight gullible on the internet, like I'm talking hours of doing human verification surveys, not seeing was just the endless goddamn genjutsu, I don't think that there's anything like the feeling of witnessing the occurrence of a good old-fashioned scam. A scam, a bad deal, a lick, the price for every modern sports game, you know, whatever you want to call it. I've seen it all happen from every shape and size that they can come in, and after, you know, all this time, it still hasn't failed to be any less informative than the last time I saw it happen. I try so hard not to say entertaining because I didn't want to make anybody feel bad. But seriously, scams and bad arrangements, especially in gaming, aren't an offense that you should be taking lightly, you know, especially in nowadays when we have so much technology that finds its way to work against us the same way that it works for us. However, this scam that I'm talking about today isn't the byproduct of the world trying to make Iron Man's Jarvis a real thing, and more on C's planet years ago with Call of Duty and their official esports league that's been the home for professional competition in the game for a while. Now, as far as Call of Duty goes with its, gameplay, I have little to no interest in talking about it. After my last diss track I made on Modern Warfare 3 when it came out a few months ago, I gotta tread lightly around what Activision got going on. We all know how they feel about being roasted. But nevertheless, the esports scene that was damn near popularized by Call of Duty back in the MLG days is still striving and continuing hosting matches with them literally in competition for the past few weeks. However, while you might see these competitions on YouTube and whatnot and think that it's all gravy and that people are just happy to be living out their professional gaming careers, unfortunately, if Activision has shown us anything about Call of Duty in the last 5 years, it's that they're willing to suckle out every single penny that they can from the cow udder of anything to do with the IP. Even if that cow's dead. Call of Duty Pro esports team leader of 𝘊𝐿𝐷 and content creator 𝘊𝐿𝐷𝐿 and professional player and content creator 𝘊𝐿𝐷𝐿 recently sued Activision for over 680 million monyons for claiming to hold an unfair monopoly over the Call of Duty esports league, since they bought the whole thing out from the previous shareholders back in 2019, keeping any other entity from creating their own Call of Duty league without Activision's permission. Now, this is where that scam I talked about comes in because, you might be confused as to how the league could act as a monopoly when it's legally the only esports team for Call of Duty, which is a game that they own, and that's because this league is holding a monopoly instead over wallets. 𝘊𝐿𝐷 and 𝘊𝐿𝐷𝐿 claimed in their suit that Activision's standard requirement for all esports teams includes paying a big entry fee, required sharing of any investment money poured into the individual esports teams, and that players couldn't seek out any outside sponsorships for their team. An agreement of rules that they argued wasn't negotiated and instead forced upon team owners when Activision bought out the league in 2019. This is apparently how it's been since day one of Activision's reign on the CDL, and as you can imagine, as one of the biggest teams and players on the Call of Duty scene, these dudes are just trying to get compensation for the prices that they feel have been overpaid all these years, totaling to almost $1 billion. Now, as crazy as it all seems, and obviously to a person like me and maybe you who might not have dreams of playing professionally, from the outside perspective, anyone seeing this lawsuit and the amount of money Activision is profiting from the players, we would call that literal robbery. But the fact of the matter is, when it's all said and done, these are Activision's rules that they set as owners of not only the CDL, but also of Call of Duty itself, and that once these players sign the contract agreeing to these rules, it's kinda, So I'm not saying you shouldn't feel how you want to feel about these rules, but what I'm most concerned with is how the courts are going to respond to this case if it gets taken to trial, because we all know Activision likely ain't paying a dime to anybody as a settlement. They don't even put money into campaigns more than 3 hours long anymore. So if 𝘊𝐿𝐷 and Rodriguez manage to win the lawsuit, it's gonna be an interesting climate for the esports scene if players could find a way to get more leeway as far as what they pay to the event organizers, kind of like a domino effect. And given that esports of, all spectrums generally doesn't bring in much revenue, period, I think it could be interesting as hell to see how that scenario will pan out years down the line. But hey man, we could all just go back to hosting basement local and, LAN party tournaments like back in the day and call it even. Activision can't take away what they don't know about. But of course, that's the latest on this latest Call of Duty lawsuit and, what's going on in the community. hopefully all parties involved, can get peace on, what they're looking for in the lawsuit. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for Call of Duty and this esports lawsuit. So what do you guys think about Call of Duty and, this thing going on right now, man? Feel free to comment down below. What's up, like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one.